Hello, AP Psychology students. I have a question for you. What causes you stress? Um, so I'm going to give you a definition of stress. We're going to talk about some sources of stress and even ways to measure stress here in this 15-minute video. So first of all, stress is defined as our pressure or demand that is placed on a person to adjust or adapt. We are in an unprecedented time in modern history where many of us are being forced to adjust or adapt to a whole new way of teaching or a whole new way of learning. That should be causing some form of stress. I know it is causing stress on me. Distress is a negative event. These are, any kind of negative event, such as losing a job or a death in the family or something like that. That's all going to cause you to have to adjust or adapt. Sometimes we have personal life events that are positive, they're exciting. Getting married, things like that are supposed to be exciting and wonderful times, but they do carry heightened arousal, and as we'll see later, they can cause some health problems later on. Now, the American Psychological Association did a study of several thousand students, and these were the top 10 teen sources of stress according to students across the nation. Number 10, getting along with a boyfriend or girlfriend. 9, parent losing a job. If you've been through that, you know that's a tough thing. 8, parents or other family members fighting more. I don't know if this has happened to any of you. I know it happened to me when I was growing up. My parents started fighting with my sister a lot more. It really did become more stressful around the house. Getting along with parents. Number 6, managing extracurriculars. Well, you don't have too many of them right now, but when we're in school, full session, and you're doing Model UN and the track team and band and choir or whatever, that can be really, really time consuming and difficult to fit in school on top of all of that. Getting along with friends, physical appearance. And then the top 3, I think, are some that you can all relate to. Getting into a good college, there's so much pressure these days to get into a college that is well known and that is rigorous, and your family having enough money, even if you do get in that college, to be able to attend that college. And then finally, and this is one that parents far underestimated, the stress. I'm sure you know what it is. It is doing well in school. So it's not just our school where this is high stress. This is across the country. Students believe that doing well in school was their number one source of stress. All right, so let's talk about sources of stress in general. These are stressors. You know what hassles are. They're those things like getting stuck in, a part of the building that has a traffic jam every day, and you're like shoulder to shoulder with people, trying to get into the lunchroom at the beginning of lunch, trying to get out in the parking lot at the end of the day, or that student that sits next to you and they bounce their leg up and down all day long, and you're just like, they just want to explode. After a while, you just feel like really, really annoyed. And actually, those can really build up. Then add to them some of these other things. Frustration is a source of stress. When your pursuit of your goals is blocked, you don't get into the college that you want to, you didn't make the team that you wanted to get onto. This is a source of stress, and it does cause heightened nervous system arousal, and it does cause stress. Sometimes we're frustrated because we've had unrealistic goals, and this is why having realistic goals, like I talked about in a previous lesson, knowing yourself and knowing your actual strengths is a good thing. Type A behavior pattern is a very well-known behavior pattern among personality psychologists, and physicians. Type A behavior pattern is a particular behavior pattern. It's almost like a personality quality where that individual is very impatient, competitive, aggressive, and what they want, when they want something done, they want it done now. Not tomorrow, not the next day. They want it done now. And if what they want done isn't done, they're usually going to respond with anger. That's going to cause stress on their heart. And people with this type of behavior pattern have a high risk for coronary heart disease because of the amount of pressure that they're putting on themselves just because of this type A behavior pattern. Catastrophes, of course, are going to cause our stress. Now, some people have experienced really large-scale events. They've been in war. Maybe they've been in a natural disaster like a tornado or a hurricane, and they barely survive by sitting in their bathtub. I think this pandemic that we're in right now is a whole new kind of catastrophe that I never imagined I would see in my lifetime. I think that I hear stories about the people that are working on the front lines of helping people who are desperately ill and dying. The stress that they are facing is immense. I really can't imagine it, and I have great thanks and admiration for those who are working on that. So a catastrophe can be a cause of stress as well. And believe it or not, life events, both positive and of course negative, can have an effect on your level of stress. So back in the 1970s, Holmes and Ray wanted to try to quantify a level of stress. Stress is very difficult to quantify, and there are some people that disagree with the methodology of Holmes and Ray. However, their work has been important in helping us to understand how just basic life events can affect us physically and can affect our level of stress. So what they did is they created a scale, and they, working with several thousand people, they said marriage is kind of like a middle of the road life stress event. All right, so they made that 50. And then they listed all kinds of other life events. And of course, they would have to have done this with married people. And death of spouse was the highest by far at 100. And if you know anyone that has lost a spouse, that they have passed away, you know that this is a very, very stressful life event because everything changes. And then they assigned point values to other life events over the past year. So they have a survey and they ask you to rate these events over the last year. What they found was that when life changes or life change units scored from 150 to 299, more than half of the people had health problems the following year, significant health problems. If that number was greater than 300, the number of people who had significant health problems the following year went up to 80%. Now I'm going to show you what a couple of these stress inventories looks like, and I will attach them to today's lesson as well if you want to look more closely. So here's the one for the original one. So you can see death of a spouse is 100 and divorce is quite a bit less at 73. Marriage here is 50. And again, you can look at these on your own, but changes in responsibilities at work can cause stress. A son or daughter leaving home causes stress because you have to adapt, you have to change. Even something like a major holiday can be stressful for some people. I mean, not hugely stressful, it's only 12, but nevertheless, it still causes stress. Now, you might wonder why outstanding personal achievement might cause so much stress, and that's because people expect more from you. I have another stress inventory, and this one is for teens. Many teens, of course, can't relate necessarily to the adult stress scale, so let's see if we can get this one open. Here you can see for a teen, a parent's death is a very high stress, as well as a sibling or even a close friend passing. Again, you can look through this on your own and see what kinds of things might cause you stress. Okay. There are other life teen skills out there, and you can look those up as well. That's one I just happened to find. Okay. So that is one way, or another form of stress, are life events, and that's one way to try to measure stress. Okay, so why does stress cause health problems? There's something called cortisol that is produced when we have stress. Stress causes inflammation. And inflammation can both be a cause and effect of both cardiac disease and depression. So I've known at some very stressful times in my own life that I am certain that my cortisol production has increased. And I have not experienced cardiac disease, but I have experienced depressive symptoms as a result of chronic stressors. Another way that we can look at the health effect is that when you have persistent stressors and then you have those negative emotions that go with them, such as depression, this can oftentimes lead to unhealthy behavior. Smoking, drinking, poor nutrition, and sleep. For me, sleep became the biggest problem, as well as nutrition. These persistent stressors, the unhealthy behaviors, along with the release of stress hormones, causes autonomic nervous system effects such as high blood pressure, headaches, stress headaches, immune suppression, which means that you're not fighting off disease as well as you normally would, and then potentially heart disease as well. So when it is said that stress can be associated with heart disease, it is associated with heart disease for these reasons. Now, the last thing I want to talk about on this PowerPoint is something called Cellier's General Adaptation Syndrome. This is one you have to remember, okay? So sometimes I tell you at times you have to remember something. This is the one that you have to remember. Hans Cellier was a physiologist in the 1920s, and he noticed a general pattern of people that were experiencing either a large amount of excessive stress or a continuous stress. And he described this syndrome, and it has further been validated by numerous other research studies. So the first stage of the general adaptation syndrome is alarm and mobilization. This is the initial stage when you see this picture here of all these things coming down on you, and it activates a fight or flight response. You deal with the stress, you're making adrenaline, and you're just getting through that initial stage, or the rubber band has gotten super stretched, and so you're just doing all you can to keep going. Then you get into the resistance stage. Your heart rate slows down, some of your body functions return to normal, but your body chemistry is not returned to normal. So your cortisol production is still high, your hormones have gone out of whack, your glucose production is out of whack, your mineral production like potassium might be out of whack. So this delicate chemical balance that your body has is complicated by this resistance stage. So this is like when, kind of when like you're running on auto, you've got so many things going on, but what happens is you're most likely to gain weight during this time, and you're likely to have memory problems because you're under so much stress. You're holding up all the weight. Now, either those stressors go away, which is what we hope will happen, or you find a way to deal with them, or to, clear your calendar, or whatever you need to do, or the third stage can happen. The third stage is the stage of exhaustion. And as you can see in this picture, the person has surrendered. They've merely collapsed under the weight of all of the stress that they've experienced. The weakened immune system is going to cause them to get potentially influenza or other illnesses. Stress-related illnesses such as heart disease or high blood pressure can occur. High cholesterol can occur. When I was going through an extremely stressful time in my life, my cholesterol tripled. It went into a very dangerous level, actually. Depression, and in extreme cases, the person might merely collapse from exhaustion, and death is not a likely outcome of this, but when you get to the exhaustion stage, you'll know it, and people around will know it, because you simply can't keep going. And that's sometimes when people are forced to make changes in their life. So, as I said, Cellier's General Adaptation Syndrome is just definitely one of those things you want to commit to your memory. So, GAS, gas, okay, Cellier's gas, General Adaptation Syndrome, and then ARE, the word R, alarm, resistance, and exhaustion. Thank you for listening. Don't be too stressed, but do remember stress. Thanks a lot. Bye.